G'day people, I'm Sharon, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about foot controls. Perhaps more information than you ever wanted to have about them. But hopefully there's some little nuggets of information that you didn't know and that will help you on your way. I'm not 100% sure what the collective noun for foot controls is, but it appears I have it. A pedestrian maybe? Give me your suggestions in the comments. I'm going to start off with an old Janome foot control, and it's not hugely old, might be 20 years, something like that. It's actually got the same three-lobed attachment for the machine that all of the current Janome overlockers have. But this is not actually one that comes from an overlocker, it's one that comes from an older sewing machine. And it's got this interesting little bit on it that says high and low. Now there are some machines that come with these high-low markings on them. If in Australia, and I could not tell you about this in other countries, but in Australia, if you try and run this on low, the machine will sound like it's grinding itself to pieces. It's not, but that's what it sounds like. So in Australia at least, always make sure it's on high. If your machine is making a grinding noise and you find that you've got a high-low switch on your foot control, try changing it to high. That may very well help. If you've got one of the older still foot controls that have a white connector to the machine and they've got 4 or 5 pins that go into the machine, if your foot control breaks, or even if one of these ones breaks, it's possible for a technician to actually change this for a generic Oyster foot control. They just have to wire it in. So this bit then becomes more important. At the moment, certainly you can buy foot controls that have got these on them. But if you're looking at the older ones that are white and have 4 or 5 pins in them, they are no longer available. And so that becomes a hugely important part of your machine, because if you've got it, a technician can rewire it. If you haven't got it, you're pretty much stuffed. This one is a current Janome overlocker or serger foot control, and it also has the 3-pin. It's exactly the same 3-pin that the other one was. This one is a newer one. The ones on the overlockers don't come with the high-low button on them. You have your heel on the floor, press that down. As I depress this, the further I depress it, the faster the machine goes, and the less I depress it, the lighter. So it should be graduated, what it's doing. And if it's completely on or completely off, then there's a problem inside there. This is an older foot control, also from an overlocker or serger. It's got a slightly different shape to it. This one goes into a hobby lock, and it can also be used in the baby lock, I think. So there are different shapes of attachment around for different machines. If you've got the right one, it's great. If you haven't got the right one, it doesn't work. So if you're buying a machine second hand, make sure that that plug goes into the machine. This foot control is from a 1600p, a Janome 1600p, which is a high-speed foot control, and it's actually got quite a different attachment part, but it has to be the right sort of connector to get into the machine. Those other ones I've shown you would not work in this machine. This foot control and power cord are from a Janome DC 3050, which is a machine that's about 20 years old, 15, 20 years old, something like that. The DC range of machines have separate power cords and foot controls, and all of the machines that have start-stop buttons will have a separate power cord and foot control, because in order to use the start-stop button, you need to detach the foot control from the machine. This overrides the start-stop button, so you have to take this out in order to use the start-stop button. The cord is just a fairly standard cord. It's actually the same one that is used on my Simplicity bias tape maker. For a long time, I've referred to these foot controls as Harry Potter foot controls because it can be that when you depress them, when you take your foot back off, the machine keeps going. And it's to do with a bit of metal fatigue inside, and your technician can fix it. If something has gone wrong with your foot control like this, you could replace it like for like, although I don't think they actually make these ones, sell these ones anymore. They sell the black ones that are small like this. Or you could potentially decide to buy one of these. Now these ones will be more expensive than the black plastic ones that I just mentioned, but this one is actually from my Janome Memorycraft 8000 that I bought in 1992. And it still works. And the only problem with it is it's a bit noisy now. It's got some springs in there that probably needs to be opened up and oiled. Now, there doesn't seem to be a cord. It's actually a fully retractable cord. If you ever get your foot control back from the technician and you can't find the cord, it's because it's been retracted and you just didn't realise. Like a cord on a vacuum cleaner, they do mark in here so that you don't take it too far and pull it out, but it's just a matter of retracting it back in. And honestly, the extra money that you pay for one of those foot controls, it's just lasted forever. It's a brilliant thing, and they're still making them, they're still providing them with certain machines, well and truly worth the extra money that you pay for them. And the jack on it is exactly the same as that one, so completely interchangeable. It's not a problem at all. This is a high-end foot control. Same here, as you press it, the further down you press it, the faster the machine goes, but it's got this extra bit over here, and this comes on some of the higher end machines. It's to operate your cutter, so that without taking your hands off what you're sewing, you can take your foot off here, press that, and the machine will cut your threads for you. So that's why this one has the extra piece on the side. What you'll notice on this one, however, is that the jack that goes into the machine has actually got two black lines on it, and the previous ones that I showed you have only got one black line. And these are the same as audio jacks, so they're the same as if you're putting a headset into a computer or something like that. They will have the same sorts of jacks on them. And this is indicating a mono jack, and this is a stereo one. So the stereo one is used because it's operating two things. The mono one is where it's only operating one thing. I can put either of these jacks, the mono or the stereo, into any of these machines. But if I put the mono jack into the machine that's supposed to have this won't work, and it will tell me that the cutter's not going to work. If I put this one into the machine that should have this jack, it won't cause a problem. It only knows how to receive from this. So audio jacks are what is going into your sewing machine. If you have a quilting frame where you're attaching your little domestic sewing machine to it, and you need to use a foot control to operate the machine because it doesn't have a start-stop button, so you have to use a foot control, sometimes these cords are not long enough. What can you do about it? Well, you go to your audio shop and you buy an extension cord. And this one is stereo. I couldn't get a mono one. All I do is plug this in one end, and that one goes into the machine. Now this particular one, this particular brand, when I tried to plug it into my machine, had a problem. And the problem is not this, it's actually this is a bit big to fit into the hole in my machine. So it didn't want to go in far enough. I need to pare some of this away if I'm going to use it. So look for extension cords, audio extension cords that are a bit thinner. Take your foot control with you. You will find the people at the shop are going, what on earth is that? But try and make sure that you get one that piece of plastic around there is no thicker than the one around the sewing machine foot control. Alternatively, if you've got a foot control something like this, maybe on a 3018 LE or an MW, you may need to get an electrician to put an extension into the cord for you to make it long enough if you've got one of those ones where you need to go over the back of the quilting frame. If you want to sew standing up, because maybe you've got one of those tables that goes up and down, then an extension on your foot control lead is a very handy thing to have. If you've got a foot control that as you use it, it slides across the floor and you want to stop it from doing that, rubberized matting, put that down and it doesn't shift. Another idea is to use a bath mat that's got non-slip underneath it so that it won't go anywhere, and you can put your foot control hopefully on top of that. Final idea, put something up against the end of the foot control, maybe books, maybe a brick, doesn't really matter, you just don't want it to run away from you. I am intending to do another video about how to use start-stop buttons on machines. See you next time.